Hi, my name is Kozan, and I'm a monk at SokukoJi, where I practice with the guidance of my teacher Sokuzan. We rely on your donations to support our programming of practice, study, and teachings, and to fund scholarships that help our full-time practice residents with tuition and living expenses. Thank you for helping our Sangha.
So we're just going to do mountains and rivers today. So I would be happy to respond to your questions. At some point, maybe what we'll do is just something like the talk title will come out of the first question, because I can give you a talk title and talk for a little while, but sometimes the first question might be a good thing. That way we're on a similar, rather than I'm just lecturing you, we're talking about what you're interested in hearing about. So that being said, if you have questions, please come this way. Since there are 36 screens open, I won't be able to see everyone. So if you put your hands up in show, that may be enough for me to call on you. But also, you could just say, whatever your name is, and like Isan bowing, and that way I can call on you that way.
Andrea Bowing.
Go ahead.
How do you work with, say, being sick for say like a month or something like that, and managing your sitting practice? Bowing.
Okay, I'm not clear on what you're asking me. Would you mind repeating or paraphrasing?
Andrea Bowing, how do you work with your, excuse me, let me back up. How do you manage your sitting practice when you're ill for say like a month or longer? Bowing.
Well, it may be obvious to you when I say this, it's just very situational. If you can't sit upright, if you're really ill and you can't sit upright, then stay in bed. Or if it's happening, if your illness is happening in such a way that you just don't feel like meditating or practicing at all, or even coming on this, don't do it. Take care of yourself. How your whole body mind situation is, that needs to come first, rather than trying to push yourself into some kind of a form. If someone who lives at the monastery, they don't have to explain, they don't have to bring a note from their doctor or anything. They just say, don't feel well, won't be at forms this morning. Now, if they do that day after day after day, week after week, month after month, may have to do something besides live at the monastery. But as long as people get sick or don't feel well, so sometimes those illnesses go on for weeks or even months. So we would look at it situationally. You living on your own, basically, rather than in a monastery or with a group of meditators, where you have some kind of obligation to observe the forms, then you would just have your own situation. Just do the best you can. Maybe even set up a form so you don't slide under the radar of your own awareness altogether. Set up a form. So you need to, if you can get up out of bed, if you're that sick, but get out of bed, walk across the room, and on your way to the restroom, which you're going to have to go to, probably. I'm trying to think of a scenario that might show up for anyone. You have an altar, bow. If you consider yourself a Buddhist, which I think you do, you're studying Buddhism, you're a Buddhist. So bow to the altar and say, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha, I take refuge in the teacher, or whatever form you're using. It might be just using the first three. And then bow each time, or bow one time. It's your form. Bow to an altar, an image of the Buddha, possibly an image of the teacher. Offer incense, offer flowers, offer water. You can offer. You can offer food. It's some kind of a gesture of giving. And even though you don't feel well and you don't sit down on the cushion for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, you could at least do that. Make some kind of offering to the three jewels, to the teacher, to the form. Did I get close to what you were looking for?
Andrea Bowing, yes, but I have a further question.
Go ahead, please.
I actually get sick regularly during winter. It's
Yeah.
a chronic thing. So is it advisable to make some kind of plan since I know it's coming, or should I just wake up every day and take it as it goes? Valerie?
A little bit of each. A little bit, take it as it goes. That you need to do that as it shows up. But you could have some kind of a plan where through that period, if it's coming up and you're going to have some difficulty, that chronic discontent. Do you know what it is? Has it been diagnosed?
Andrew Bowing, yes, I have non-allergic rhinitis and I get secondary infections in the winter.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I don't know anything about that, so I would just say go with whoever you're seeing for help, your doctor, and then also maybe set up a small form like that so you're paying attention to that. You could also read a chapter out of, you have the 108 meditations. You could read one of those, even laying in bed. I mean, I don't recommend that we meditate laying in bed. You should set up if you can, but if you need to lay down, then you could actually read one of those and practice setting your awareness practice in bed. Just hold very still when you're doing it, and do it for a length of time. Do it for 5 minutes. Start with a bell, end with a bell. So find a way to work with that so that you have a form that you're observing that you've created yourself based on how you feel and what you can handle, what you can do and what you can't do. Be reasonable about it, but have some way of returning to the teacher, the teaching in the community over and over and over again every day, possibly a couple of times a day, maybe morning and evening. You might not do sitting meditation all day that day, but might not do shikantaza because you don't feel well, but you could have some kind of a formal, what's called a form, you could call it a ritual or whatever, but those are important. They're important in any activity you're going to do, but in particular the spiritual path, you need some kind of a form that you observe every day.
Andrew Bowing, thank you.
You're welcome. Further questions in any direction?
Goes on bowing.
Yes. Goes on.
I have a question about the Bodhisattva prayer for those who have passed.
Yes.
It says, there's a line that says, "O compassionate ones, protect them as they are defenseless."
Yes.
So what does that mean? Those who have passed that are defenseless versus the living situation?
Well, in the living situation, you have your opinions, your ideas, your judgments, your hand position, your family, the walls of your room, and the walls of your mind. They're protecting you from the onslaught of otherness or that which you're paranoid about. But when the body mind drops, that paranoia, if it's not been dealt with in this lifetime, it's on you. Is that a guarantee? No, not at all. I can be completely incorrect about that. You might go directly into a heaven realm and be perfectly, relatively protected. I have no idea for sure, but it looks like some of what could happen is that which you've been protecting yourself from in your life when you pass. That some of that may come up to cash in their chips, so to speak. Causes and conditions are endless. Samsaras without end. It's an incredible set of circles. And if you're going in one of those, when the body mind collapses, then the consciousness is not necessarily liberated, though it could be. The causes and conditions that arise in anyone's mind stream are untraceable and searchable, and no two lives are alike. So we're just basically praying for the welfare, and because of the nature of consciousness, there's that you're able to address the situation in consciousness rather than just on Zoom. More?
Goes on bowing. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
If you're, can you train yourself to receive in those different states?
If you train yourself to receive as you're alive, my understanding, what I've been looking at is that if you train yourself to receive in this human realm, then that intention is not a thought pattern. It's an intention that has to do with consciousness only. So it looks that way. It looks like that's a possibility. There's no guarantee, but you can be fairly sure if you turn into samsara and try to squeeze happiness out of cause and effect, right and wrong, success and failure, winning and losing, that will just continue. But if you turn to the teaching through the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and through the understanding that we're all studying daily for some of us for many, many years, decades even, then that's working with the consciousness in such a way that there's the possibility of a complete understanding or complete openness or anuttara samyak sambodhi. That could happen at death. Because the body does drop, instead of, as Dogen says, drop off body and mind. You don't get rid of the body. You see how attached you are to the body and the mind as protecting some kind of a artificial being or self. There is no one. There is no personhood. And it's possible to stumble onto this with no practice, but it's unlikely. But with a lot of practice, then the likelihood of stumbling onto that is very, very likely. That you will, because you're returning to this teaching that's saying, no self in the skandhas, there's no being there. This voice that you're hearing is coming out of dependent origination and has no solid personhood. The personhood it has is unreal. Or
Goes on bowing. So is the body and mind and this physical being protective in the first place?
For the time that you're a living being, yes, you're totally the most terrible, vicious, evil, crazy person is protected by their body-mind construct that brought them karma, that brought them into this lifetime. They have some relative protection from the unknown by grasping at what? The known. And that known can show up as, I know I'm better than everyone else, and I know that only I can fix it, that kind of thing. Those are powerful. Those are very powerful, just the same as I'm nobody, I'm worthless, I might as well end my life, kind of thing. Those are very powerful forms. Welcome. Further questions, please. Don't hesitate.
Wonderbowing, what is the worst suffering? The suffering that we're keeping at bay, or the suffering that we're creating by keeping things at bay?
I don't know if there's, you couldn't, but I don't know how valuable it is to go in and sort through it. It's just whatever is showing up right now, receive it. Suffering, receive it. Happiness, receive it. Don't abandon anything for something else. None of that manipulation, unless I missed what you're asking about. Suffering. Suffer.
Wonderbowing, it seems like you were saying that we're protecting ourselves. That our ego is basically a protection.
The ego is protecting something that is constructed and created and imaginary, but it's fundamentally unreal, albeit evident or there or seems real, seems like somebody. War.
Wonderbowing, but then if this body passes away, that ego's not there to protect it. The consciousness anymore?
We don't know for sure. It looks like it could continue to go because of the intense grasping or rejection or hope and fear that happened when the body mind was, the consciousness was seemingly with the body mind. The consciousness itself is when the body mind goes, disintegrates, decays, goes back into the elements, then consciousness doesn't, that may be shrunk up into a ball of me, may still be going on. There's no guarantee of that. There's no threat of it necessarily, but it's a good idea to find out who this is and what this is before the body-mind does go back into the elements.
Divine, and what exactly, when we're practicing receiving, what exactly is continuing? Is it
you just receive what shows up in the sense of seeing? You just receive it. No addition. No complication. No interpretation of what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, what you're thinking. That's the difficult one. There is the thinking. Whatever shows up in the mind stream has no thinker. It's an incredible illusion that there's somebody who's thinking stuff and who gets credit or blame or suffers from the thought, the mind stream that comes up that is assumed to be the possession or the experience of a particular being aligned with a body-mind complex that gives an even more intense anchor into a physical dimension that is unreal. It's dependently arisen. It does not last. Well,
divine. So in this teaching right now,
yes.
How can we ask a question that helps us go fundamentally deeper? What kind of question helps us go fundamentally helps us go deeper into?
You ask it out of your own assumptions or preconceptions about things, and the main one, the most difficult one, is that you think you are a particular person going somewhere, having a life, having opinions, beliefs, things that are real. Pardon me for dealing with my itching nose. So that would be your question. You're doing it now. You're asking out of what seems to be confusing or problematic or not clear. So you're actually asking. So that's why I say ask questions. And the more simpler and more direct the question, the more direct is going to be the response, because I don't really think about stuff. If I did think, I wouldn't be able to do this. I'd still be back in the 4th grade math class, as we were talking about, or arithmetic. I don't think. Thinking goes on, but I don't think. Personhood is temporary, and with someone who is clear, who functions as a Dharma teacher, it's only lasts just for even seconds. It doesn't even last out. It's there just long enough to say something, and then it goes. So it shows up because there needs to be some kind of a dynamic. That's why you're asking questions of yourself. You're actually asking questions of your original nature. You just don't know it yet. More?
Oh, Divine, I still want to ask, how can we ask questions about our mistaken identity or this self that we're so bought into?
You're already doing it. You do it all the time.
Divine, I want to know what question to ask.
Ask me who you are fundamentally. What?
Who am I fundamentally?
No one. There is no response other than the negative one, because of the intense grip we have on making something positive, making something here. I'm here, and I'm alive, and I'm someone. I'm going somewhere, and this is my hand, and that's your hand. And we just buy into the relativity that supports the illusion of a separate self, a separate environment, separate other beings that we're interacting with. Unreal. It's vividly unreal. But because it's so vivid, we tend to believe that. If you continue to walk the path, however that shows up for anyone that's here, your particular path is going to be like no one else's. Your particular emotional dynamic, your hope and fear. Some people just don't have a lot of fear in their mind stream, and other people are just terrified all the time, day after day after day. Some people with that intense negativity tend to get rid of it by blaming. People blame their parents. I certainly have. Blame the environment, blame the government, blame. You can get totally wrapped up in politics, as we watched on the news today a little bit. People are completely submerged in something, and albeit very, very intelligent, kind, loving people, but still they're sunk in right and wrong.
When I asked one more time, we're trying to see this false sense of self, this solidified ego. How do we ask questions about it that will help us to fundamentally see?
So look at what you believe, what you think, or what you believe is true, and what you believe, and ask questions around that. You believe that you are someone. Are you? Who are you?
And it was just told not too long ago, nobody.
How long ago was that?
I think, 30 seconds ago?
Yeah, so pretty good memory. So the causes and conditions that arise as the obscurations that any of us have, the conflicting emotions about the nature of anything. We just have to continue to look at the obscurations until we see more clearly what that is. So it's just a matter of continuing. This is why I teach by saying intend. Don't worry about results. You don't need that. You don't need any results. Ego does. Ego needs something. So if you want to know how you're doing, just ask me. I'll tell you. Ask me how you're doing.
How am I doing?
You're doing great. Just keep going. Don't look at all the flicks and spots and sticky stuff in the mind for results of you're doing terrible or results of you're doing great. Examine, but don't conclude. As soon as you conclude, materialism. Don't conclude. It's more vast than that. It's from the point of view of ego, it's worse than that. From the point of view of the truth, it's freedom. Freedom from what you know, freedom from what you don't know, freedom from the emotions they don't have to go anywhere. Nothing has to happen. Nothing will happen. If you think something's going to happen, you keep looking for how you're doing. The very nature of confusion is to look here and then look there, and look here and then look there. This doesn't mean that you should stop looking, but you don't have to look here and then look there and look here and look there. Look, it's right in front of you. The secret is it's an open secret. Not something I made up. Something has been said for centuries by those who realize their true nature. It's right in front of you. More?
Shoto bowing. Can our examining become an elaboration?
Yes. If it's a success or a failure story, all you have to do, simply put, and I'm open for questions around this for the rest of this hour or whatever. All you have to do is sit still and watch the movement of the mind come and go, concluding, rejecting, agreeing, disagreeing, liking, disliking, nice feelings, shitty feelings, come and go, come and go. That which is observing is doing nothing. It's just receiving. There's no production going on there. It's just receive. What is this? The striker. What is it? What is it for? I don't know. What is it for? What is that for? What is that for? Do it without words. Consciousness. Just receive everything. Everything is talking to you. It's saying not separate. Everything is preaching, teaching, pointing at the truth. It's beyond Buddhism. Buddhism is just a raft to get you to the actual path.
Bowing.
Yes.
What is that actual path? Bowing.
It's beyond words. It's beyond pointing. It's beyond teaching. It's beyond. You have to get through it. Get to it. So you've recently received a Jukai. So start with that. Refuge in the teacher. Refuge in the teaching. Refuge in the, not just this old man, but refuge in the Buddha, who was 2,500 years ago, who was a sage, who was a Dharma teacher, who taught people thousands of years ago the nature of their mind, pointed to it. We have so long to be here, limited time. So that path is doesn't have any, we're calling it a path, but really there's no footprints.
Bowing. Does the possibility to receive end when death happens? Bowing.
If I understand your question, maybe I don't, but if I understand your question, my response is there won't be anyone. There is no, we're beyond personhood. There is no one left. There's no one that realizes something. So as long as you feel like you're unrealized, or if you feel like you're realized, any position on anything is the very nature of confusion and passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear. The negative feelings and emotions that come in your mind stream are looking for a self that feels that way. And that's how you support it. That's how we support it. That's how I support it. That's how I know about it. But nothing changes. All we have is words, and they seem pretty cool when we're using them. We can say stuff. We can describe things. Some people can describe things better than others. Some people get the fancy idea that they see more deeply than everyone else, so therefore they become poets and try to mangle the words into the right shape so that they'll express some kind of thing they're aware of. They're so proud of themselves. That being said, some of the most moving words that have ever been written or heard, spoken, are by poets, because of the intention to express, the intention. So this is not poetry. This is the intention to receive, not the intention to express. This doesn't mean that if you're an artist, you should stop making art. Maybe you should do that even more. Maybe you should write even more. But train the mind. The most important is sit down, hold still, observe. Be an observer, be a receiver. Just receive. Stop producing stuff.
Kevin Bowing.
Yes, sir.
Earlier you said to Ando, just suffer.
Yes.
How does just suffering, or does just suffering help us to see through the imaginary self that is suffering?
Yes, it does. It does. Okay. Glad we got that solved. Yeah, I sometimes say, and it's easy to misunderstand because it's not meant as a confirmation of negativity, but just suffer. Suffer is just happening. It's arising in everyone. Everyone is suffering. The Buddha was not kidding us. What a kind, loving human being. Did not try to necessarily win the popularity contest back 2,500 years ago, but he says life is suffering. And he didn't add this on, but perhaps he did, but I'm adding it right now. He did not say part of the time. Suffering. What's different about it? There is no one who is suffering. So that's Naroda, may be so bold to say it that way. The sufferer, it doesn't disappear, it doesn't have to. It's seen to be unreal. The personhood that grasps at that aspect of consciousness and claims it as, I'm the one who's suffering. I need to get out of this. I need to end my life. I need to end his life. I need to get a master's degree. I need to move to Nova Scotia, whatever. I want. No, you don't. Or yeah, maybe you do, but no, you don't. Sit there. Sit down, hold still. See the truth yourself. You see it. You don't need me. You don't need a teacher. But until you see what this is, and if you feel like you're going in circles and you're confused and you feel like you're suffering and you're not sure what to do about it, you may need to listen to the teaching. You may need to listen to the Buddha.
Kevin Bowing.
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, I was asking the question to sort of connect how we get from the first noble truth to the third. And
you hear about the first snowball truth?
Noble truth?
The snowball truth, yeah. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. I tried, you'd think a really disciplined person like me would be able to resist that kind of dumb humor, but I couldn't. So, well, now that I've had my little production here of humor, now please continue with your question.
I have a question about the fourth noble truth, snowball truth. You don't. So, you don't teach the Eightfold Path.
I don't.
And summarize it, or maybe summarize isn't the right word, but instead teach Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna.
Yes.
Is the pith teaching of the Eightfold Path included in Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna? Bowing.
I feel that the central issue there of training your mind using the Eightfold Path is covered there. But 2,500 years ago, it was a different situation. It probably was necessary to really spell that out to differentiate his teaching from the Brahmins and what they were teaching, which is not wrong. It's just another kind of spiritual path. So I think he really probably felt, if we were to chat with him a little bit, I probably felt like he needed to spell that out very specifically. But I've looked into that myself and have read it and studied it somewhat in the past, and feel like just those three, and those are the three sometimes called, I think, the three prajna principles. Is that, anybody recognize that? I think it's sometimes, and there's different words for those three, Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. I say, sit down, Shila, look at it, Samadhi, see what it is, Prajna, Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna, sit down, observe. If you're observing, this is Samadhi. Samadhi is not a state of mind. If it is, you have work to do. If you think that that you're somehow in Samadhi, I would say, come out of the closet.
Beat you to it.
I'm not talking about that. So, but look at it. Observe, receive. Be an observer. And eventually, you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what this is, but you don't miss anything. You don't miss a doorknob with red paint on it. You don't miss it. Was I looking at one of those right now? Yes. Where is it? Gone. You don't miss anything. You also don't abandon everything else for concluding about the particularity that keeps showing up in your mind that has big hooks in it, trying to drag you back into self, some kind of imaginary self that has an axe to grind with somebody or something. Falling apart, nothing to do. Everything all at once. Nothing sleeps. Kyoshin.
Kyoshin bowing. I would just like to say thank you, Sokuzan, for your teachings and your life, giving us so much of your life and being accessible to us, and that you don't have the closed fist of some teachers. Thank you. Wow.
Jishin bowing. Is just suffer the same as don't oppose what is? Bowing.
Yeah, you can say that. But don't agree with it either. Don't do anything. If you have a headache, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, not much is going to happen. Who needs a headache? You could say it that way. But if it's there, it's a headache. And if it's I could go on a little bit there, but I don't think I need to. It's kind of obvious that we need to just receive everything.
Well, I'm bowing.
Quite a few people on the windows today. Yes, go ahead. Hold on.
Can just suffer actually reinforce the identity of a sufferer?
Yes, it can. If there's no mind training, if there's no sit down, hold still, observe, there has to be a whole buttload of that. You can't just sit for an hour a day. I'm kind of generalizing, because I'm going to say that some people to sit for an hour a day is like 4 hours a day, because of their particular mind stream, their the way that dependent origination is showing up in their so-called personhood. So it could be a lot, but you're going to need to sit a lot. And then, because there's no, this mandala of awakening is everywhere. And so if you sit down, that everywhereness becomes you're at the center of that. And it's not a center. Because if it becomes a center, then we're talking about a center, and we're talking about all the rest of it, all the fringes. It's everything all at once. Everything, all, as Coben said, everything all at once. Falling apart, falling apart, falling apart, falling apart. The parts are dropping off everywhere. The consolidation that we think is somebody going somewhere is just coming apart just by being observed. Just by looking at that knot in space, it starts to unfold, unwrinkle. No guarantee. When you see that happening, when you see your mind starting to come apart, you might feel you need to go see a psychiatrist. And if you're a student of mine, please come and see me first. I may turn, as soon as you talk to me, I say, yes, absolutely. You need to talk to somebody other than me. You need to go see your doctor, or you need to see someone who deals with what seems to be happening with you.
Well, I'm bowing.
I'm not so certain of anything. I'm not certain of anything. Certainty is certain, but certainty isn't about something. It's just certainty. Don't believe anything I say. You don't need to believe it. Go ahead, Will.
In the past, you have offered to help in other ways with suffering with me, for example, deep consciousness work. There are times when I'm in those spaces that I feel I need extra help. What makes you decide, or in that moment, to offer that kind of additional help, that there might be something else?
I have no idea. I have no, there's no trajectory there. There's no path there. It's just, you tell me. You don't tell me literally, but I talk to you, and I just know that. But it's not like not like a decision or some kind of evaluation or analysis going on. It's a very, very situational. I don't know how else to say it other than that. If you awaken, and you and I get together and talk a little bit, probably not much will happen. Unless you want to show me one of your paintings, and then I start to get pretty excited about that.
Are you saying there would be no questions?
Yes, pretty much. If you see what this is, there will be no questions. You will know. I'm not saying you won't want to know where's the coffee maker at. The relative situation is still there, and it's quite refreshing to have no questions, but just very, very relative dynamics that work with your presence as a physical form in space.
Does curiosity still exist?
Let me say one more thing, or it won't come back. Mind and body are not two different things. When you realize what this is, you don't see anything but yourself everywhere. Your body, your mind, everywhere you look, you see the Buddha. And when I'm saying you see awake, you see awakening. There are no questions. You cannot be no longer intimidated by anything, by weather, by the intense insanity of this particular human realm or 6 realms. You're not intimidated by anything because there's no one there anymore. There's no one personhood in that body. Everywhere you look, you see yourself. Go ahead with your question, please.
I forgot the other one, but I have another question. But the body will still feel, the senses will still.
Maybe more intensely. You may still feel. I noticed yesterday sometime I've used this example. I might have mentioned it. I don't know, did I talk about claustrophobia? Yeah. So I've had a vision that I might have been possibly in what was referred to as a past life. I don't know this for sure, but it seemed like I was going back and just for a few moments reliving being locked in a box. I don't know if in a casket or in just a prison, but some kind of a past situation where there was a lot of claustrophobia, being inside of something where I couldn't move and they weren't going to let me out. Is that true? I don't know. It was scary. But what did I do with it? I didn't do anything with it. I didn't even observe it. I literally just, I can't even say I let it do what it wanted to do because there's no one letting anything. There's no one there. But that experience was still flashing forth. You can do that, not just with that situation, but you can be genuine. You can be the negativity that comes up in your mind stream in the sense of just receive whatever shows up. Don't conclude anything around it. Don't push it away. Don't fluff it up, and don't block it out. Just receive it, and it will be very mirror-like until even the mirror goes away. The mirror was almost only there when there's something else to reflect.
Wulong bowing, when that difficulty, and I remember this example from yesterday, it was really helpful. In that moment, was that met with this casket, this claustrophobia may be here forever?
No, that's a good one. That's path. That's something. If it happens, then you can do that as path. Say, you can intend. It's like you say. I think Byron Katie once said, "I don't care if this other ever comes to an end." It doesn't have to. You are that intentional, and you are that brave. Use that fancy word. That's the bravery of someone who thinks there's a self is the bravery of somebody on the battlefield who saves his or her buddies. That kind of instantaneous bravery that jumps on a hand grenade. This is still ego. Not that it's not helpful, of course, but the bravery of the bodhisattva is there's no one home. There's a complete gesture, not at the risk of being too poetic, a gesture into infinity. Infinity is not there, it's relative unless you gesture into it, unless you see it. And what will you see? You won't see anything. If you do, come and tell me about it.
Along bowing, in the example you're using gesture, is that the appearance of some sort of movement? Because I know that you don't say move toward anything, it's receive.
Yeah, you receive it. But the vow is to intend to see the truth. You, as a bodhisattva, the intention to save all beings, even though you can't find them, even though, but I come back with no matter what. Do it. You may have to start with your head, but your heart will follow. To use that breakdown, you have to do it. You have to receive this. And at the same time, I say, don't ask for jukai unless you have to do it. If you're on the fence, so to speak, about that, don't do it. Don't do anything. Don't do anything half-assed. Get your whole ass in there. Begin.
I got a small ass, so I think I can fit it in there.
That's a different kind of ass.
Thank you, Sokuzan.
Welcome. Further questions? You have 61 windows open here, so there should be some questions out there somewhere. That's more than usual.
Jishin bowing.
Yes.
I was also very taken by what you shared with us yesterday, that situation about claustrophobic experience. Yeah. You said today that you didn't even observe it.
No.
What did you do then?
I was claustrophobic.
So are you talking about feeling, fully feeling?
No, I was claustrophobic. That's it. I wasn't doing anything. I was whatever was arising, so there was no intention to do anything. I was just claustrophobic.
So this is what you, when you say sometimes just be it, is this what?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Let it take over. It can't find anyone. So the claustrophobia is all lonely, all by itself, being claustrophobic. You can't be fooled by anything anymore. You can only be fooled if there's something else. And if there's nothing else, then you're the fool. You're already a fool. Maybe the biggest fool in terms of something being different sizes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mozoku.
Mozoku bowing. Was there claustrophobia, or was there space with the claustrophobia bowing?
No. That was the problem. What's that other one? The opposite? Angoraphobia?
Angora?
Angora. I like Angora. It's a lot softer.
Junshu bowing.
Yes.
There's a question from Robert in the UK.
Robert.
Is metta meditation a safe way to leave ego mind pattern behaviors?
You mean Facebook meditation? That's meta. Clarify your question, please. Come on, let's keep going. you can come back with that question. Go ahead, Isan.
Sun bowing. Another question about the Bodhisattva prayer for those who are recently passed. It occurred to me recently that I had been thinking of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as disembodied beings, and maybe they're not, maybe they're embodied beings. What is the essence of the object of our supplication? It seems like other. What is it?
Object is you. You're the Bodhisattva. You're it.
Help me understand how to, about that prayer.
Just intend, say the prayer. Say the prayer. Just the same thing with the precepts, the 16 precepts, just recite them. Okay. If you have something that you're reciting, just like we recite the four measurables over and over, and every chance we get. We do it at meals, we do it at the end of talks, we do it all the time. We pray for others. It's an intention that just goes out. It's like shining a flashlight at the ground. That's what most people are doing. The Bodhisattva is shining that flashlight into the universe. Simple change. And does that image work? A little bit, maybe. It's a little corny. But it's about your intention. Your intention is that's what it is.
Isan bowing. Actually, that's very helpful to me, because you've said before, just supplicate, just supplicate. So that kind of sounds like the flashlight going up.
It is. It's a spiritual path.
Yeah.
It has no goal. There's no boundaries. There's no limit. It's limitless. You can use a very relative truth right under your feet. Right here, that's putting you toward the center of the earth. The symbols for ultimate realization and relative understanding are all over. It's like a over-decorated cake. Birthday, Christmas, Valentine's Day, just tons of crap. It's pretty much, you just got so much crap on there. You just push it aside and look up at your birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peter Bowing.
Yes.
This may sound like a frivolous question, but it is not.
Okay.
My wife wants to know how you got started on your path of practice, the Buddhist path.
Just being born into the human realm, and being wanting to know what was the truth. So, and all I found were not only out there, lies everywhere and lies in here. So just fundamental dishonesty. And mainly in myself. And then I met my teacher in 1973, and I stopped searching. Started practicing.
But it was necessary for you to meet a teacher, a true teacher.
Yes, you have, and I'm biased in that area. I don't think you can do this. I'm not saying your karma might not bring you into a fundamental awakening, like it did Ramana Maharshi or several other people that are spontaneous realizers. But there's not many of them, unless they're staying hidden. But meet somebody who's looking at it, if you can. Not just somebody who has a wonderful credentials. This doesn't mean you should avoid Dalai Lama. Maybe he is your teacher. I don't know. Possible. But you would know. Meet the person that's looking at it, so that when you meet them, they don't see anything but you. In other words, they don't see anything but your neurosis, because they're not separate from your neurosis. That's how they can see it so vividly. They're not setting themselves up as some kind of a superior know-it-all, transcendental guy or woman, man, being, person. They're not separate from you, so therefore they're looking at the same thing you're looking at, except you think what you feel and think is real and needs to be dealt with some way, and they know that that's not true. Therefore, they can help you. You come and present your neurosis to them in every single question you ask. You don't know. You're basically saying, I don't know, otherwise I wouldn't. But at some point, you will know, and you won't have any more questions. Is that helpful, or do you have further?
No, no. Well, yes, I have another question, if you don't mind. I have a friend who is deeply into koan practice, and when I speak to him, that's what it's like he's pushing that, not in a bad way, but
what's your question? I hear you. I've done koan practice. What's the question?
I just don't want to do it. I like your method much better. I've done koan practice.
Yeah.
And I in fact passed one at one point with a well-known teacher.
Very good.
But I never continued on with it. And I like the Soto path better, I think.
Well, good. Well, you'll know what to do. I mean, I'm not saying the idea behind koan practice is just to throw a wrench into the thinking process of ego, especially people who are very intellectual and tend to be very addicted to their thought patterns and very proud of their thinking process and their intellect and their ability to figure stuff out. They might need to do some koan practice. I've done just enough of it formally with a teacher. Not very much, but just enough to know that I'm probably not going to use that. I sometimes say to my close students, I'm your koan. You want a koan? Here I am. Or if you want me to give you a koan, I'll give you a koan. And what is that koan? Who am I? It's the only koan you need.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And it's not don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that what your friend is doing is very, very helpful and exactly what that person needs to do. Some people are not ready. Not that we're all that, advanced particularly, but some people need to do that kind of practice rather than the practice of sitting down and looking at the wall without any particular koan.
Don't you bowing?
Didn't you?
Robert has another question.
Okay.
Is loving kindness meditation a safe way to leave ego mind pattern behaviors?
I think it could be if you're under the guidance of a teacher who's teaching that. So there are different ways of teaching it. I would say so. That I'm pretty biased when it comes to this. I've done several different kinds of meditation, and the one that I guess you'd say promoting or saying you should do is sit down, hold still, all the senses are open, sit in front of something, sit in front of your refrigerator if you want to, something where nothing is moving, or at least moving very little. Trees in the yard aren't too bad because they only do so much. And see and watch what moves in the mind stream or in the life stream. Just watch the movement without agreeing, disagreeing, or shutting down. Just do it and do a lot of it. So I feel like that's what I would. But loving kindness is we do that every time we do the four immeasurables, the four Brahma Viharas. We use the conceptual mind to actually generate that. And that's very good also. We pray at the end. We pray for everybody at the end of the day in the monastery. Ritualized supplication for the welfare of others, for oneself and for one's sangha members and for the teacher, and why not? We don't need results, but we need to intend.
Don't you bowing? A question from Oscar.
Okay.
When I sit and face the wall, is the ego also sitting and facing the wall? Bowing.
Yes. Ego's there too. The whole structure of consciousness is there. All of the apparent parts, all the 8 consciousnesses are there: the seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, the processing aspect of the mind that's impersonal but just processes everything. And the 7th consciousness of the ego mind, the paranoid part of the consciousness we call the ego, or the narcissism, self-centeredness, paranoia, and then eighth consciousness, or the alaya vijnana or vijna, or the storehouse consciousness. It's just the way the Yogacaran's teaching breaks down what we call consciousness into apparent parts. But it's not limited to those parts. Those are just ways of working with consciousness, so we can talk about it a little bit. The ego is there too, seventh consciousness, and it's not an area. It's just the entirety of consciousness is the seventh for 3 seconds, 8 seconds, 2 minutes, or for the whole time where one is committing a crime. You could say it's just me and my. You've shrunk everything down into that. But since it is without size, without location, without time and space, it cannot be hindered. It's very much like a thundercloud moving through the sky. It leaves no mark on the sky. Similar kind of image. You are the sky. Don't believe me, but find out.
Views on buying. Is there some frequency with which I should stop and reflect on the precepts or read them more slowly rather than just reciting them?
Do both. Yes, good question. Yes, if you're doing precepts, then it's like a 3-speed situation, very slow, so that you don't even get through them in 15-20 minutes. Very slow, faster than that, and then very fast. Just the general speed of reciting would be the second one, and then the third one would be say it as fast as you can. And you can do that formally in the Zendo or in a meditation hall or room. You can do that on the cushion. You can do it walking down the street.
I have a question about intention. You mentioned that the vows, and also you just mentioned the prayer. I recently have something that worked well for me.
Yeah, what's that?
My question is, I don't know whether you encourage the way for me to keep doing that. So when I think of being kind and also sort of see less separation between me and others, I think of the next life. I want to be able to, I hope I'm able to be a human being again, if I can. And also, no, the way is, I feel like can generate kindness right at the moment is, I could be born in Africa, or I could be someone's grandma or someone's little baby. You know, doesn't matter who, could be the enemy that I had in the past. But that way, I think for me is generate a kindness, collect good deeds, and also see separation right away. I just wondering whether you encourage me to do that, or if I do that, what I need to be aware.
So I followed you a little bit, but what is the fundamental, kind of simplify that for me a little bit. So what's the fundamental intention there?
Do good, to find the true nature.
Sounds good to me. That's the 3 pure precepts in the Bodhisattva path is do good, don't do harm, and be with all things, or save all beings. And those can be elaborated, but do good, we already know. We know what that is.
Thank you. Bowing. And also I have an add-on. I don't know whether you have some suggestions. Doing good at the moment, it could be fear, sort of give me disappoint to, I want to be good. Give me the disappoint also with a mixture of fear. Because if I'm not doing good, maybe this is something that I could be punished, or something that I want to have as an inspiration. So I don't know whether I'm too wordy for the question, but I'm just wondering whether it's workable for me.
The way I would say, keep it very simple. Just intend to do that. You can recite those precepts. I vow to do good. I vow not to do harm. I vow to be with all things. I vow to receive everything as it is. You could write it yourself. You could make it up. yourself if you feel like you need some kind of particularity there for yourself. But the vows themselves, you've read the Bodhisattva vows, the 16. I mean, the 16 precepts that we do in this lineage, haven't you? You have a copy of those? Yeah.
I've read it.
You just read those, or pick one or two out and read those, recite those, memorize them if you wish. It's not particularly an assignment, but you do that. I don't see that. There's nothing I can say there that would say, oh, no, that's not going to work. Don't do that. Sounds good to me. Stay in touch with me.
Thank you. Bye.
Any further questions?
Andrea Bowen.
Andrea.
How can we see the truth when we're so deluded?
That's how it's done. And I'm going to have to say it this way so that you can contemplate this. Seeing delusion is awakening. So the idea you have the delusion so that you can awaken. It's an astonishing thing that we are being offered, and some people are ignoring that, and some human beings are going to go the other way, and they may need to do that. But you don't. You can actually look at the delusion with the idea that you don't have any agenda about it. You don't have to get rid of it. Get rid of anything. It's a delusion. It is also unreal, and it's vividly unreal, and it gets more and more vivid and can get more and more scary. That's why we all need some kind of a support, some kind of structure. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the example, the Buddha, someone who is sane, someone who is no longer went to war with anything, even delusion. The daughters of Mara came and tried to tantalize him and say, you're not awake. This is just a story about it. What proof have you got? So the only kind of proof I've ever seen come out of the Buddha was when he put his hand in the earth and he said, the Sparsha Mudra, this earth is my witness. This solid, sane earth is my witness for what I see. So you can just receive that yourself. You can do this. It will not feel good. It's the first noble truth of the Buddha is life is suffering. You just about have to do what the Buddha did in order to realize your true nature and to realize your Buddha nature, your awakened nature. But it will be your version with your part of the countryside, the area you live in, and your relationship to your family, and what happens at the kitchen table is not separate from ultimate truth. It's not the same. It's not separate. You have to see it. How do you see that? Train your mind. Sit down, hold still, and watch the delusion come and go. Get bigger, get smaller, get threatening, and fade off and get more passive and go off into the shadows and then come raging back because of one trigger that someone said, something someone did, all the unexamined karma in your mind stream that is sitting there waiting for that trigger. But with your mind training the mind to see that there is no solid being there, there's a possibility you will see through that whole thing and see that delusion is unreal.
Andrea Bowen, thank you.
You're welcome. We're a little bit past the hour, but I'll take one final question, especially from someone who has not asked a question. We got quite a number of people on here today. There must be one person there who has a question.
Brian Bowen.
Go ahead, Brian.
What does authentic presence look like? Bowen.
Did you say autistic presence?
No.
What did you
well,
say?
We can go there. Authentic.
Yeah. No presence with no one there. There's no personality, no personhood there. It's just consciousness only, and it can't be found, discovered, or created. We need to have some word. It needs to be realized, And you have to realize it. Soshin has to realize it. Wulong has to realize it. Augie has to realize it. I have to realize it. We all have to realize this. Or not, or do something else. You can spend the rest of your life doing something altogether different. And yeah, and you should shave that beard off too. It doesn't look good.
Sure, why not?
Good show. Thank you so much. We'll